Republicans are currently projected to win in two special elections, Wisconsin's 7th district and California's 25th, but they're not just winning, they are absolutely obliterating the Democrats. In Wisconsin's 7th, an R+8 district, they're looking at around a 14-point advantage. In California, which is considered to be an even district, but it's a district where the previous Democrat won with a 9-point lead. The Republican now has a 12-point lead. That's a 21-point swing in the other direction. The reason this is so important is that many people view this as a precursor to what will come in November. Pollsters, pundits, people on the left were saying we may see evidence of a blue wave in these elections. 538 said, if the Democrats are competitive in Wisconsin's 7th, that is evidence of a blue wave. The Democrats will maintain their majority in the House. They said if Democrats can hold California's 25th, because it is a close race, that is proof of a blue wave. Instead, it is devastatingly bad. Republicans are overperforming based on projections. We also what happened in the UK back in December. The Conservatives in the UK crushed the left. And many people speculated we may see the same thing here in the US come November. But we weren't sure. Many on the left are still defending their position. 538 again saying evidence of a blue wave. I thought this was so weird to see 538 say this when all signs point culturally to the Republicans crushing it. A Gallup poll showing that congressional Republicans, for the first time in 2 decades, are more favorable than congressional Democrats, plus all these scandals. Stands to reason that with Donald Trump on the ballot, combined with these numbers, it is going to be a massive red wave, a red tidal wave, as it were. Now, of course, I was completely wrong in 2018, and I always bring this up because I have no problem mentioning it. I overlooked an important detail in 2018. Trump supporters are not necessarily Republican supporters. So in the midterms, Trump's base didn't turn out in large enough numbers. This is data from the New York Times. But now we're looking at a non-Trump ballot. These two special elections don't have Trump on the ballot, and they're crushing Democrats. Take that into consideration and consider this. Come November, when Trump's supporters come out in droves to pull that lever for Donald Trump, they are going to check Republican across the board. I think we are going to see Republicans sweep. I could be wrong because people are going to point to this video and be like, you were wrong again. Yeah, I know I could be. Based on the current data, I think it's a fair assessment. But, we'll see how things play out. Let's read these stories. And then I want to talk about Joe Biden. You see, something strange is happening. First of all, we all know Joe Biden's not viable. But we're seeing more evidence of a Trump victory in what's called stealth voters. A new phenomenon we haven't seen before, or may have seen just not in recent history, is that there are some people who claim they approve of Trump's performance, but then a percentage of people saying they won't vote for Donald Trump. There's a disparity here that makes no sense. Because of the media's attacks on Trump, it seems there are many people who won't admit they will vote for Trump when they actually want to and approve of the president. That being the case, I think we're looking at a Trump victory, man. Trump 2020 landslide, even with everything going on with COVID. I think that's what we can expect. Let's read the news and see what's going on. I want to show you all the data. This is really fascinating stuff. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. But the best thing you can do, share this video. YouTube props up mainstream media. It creates difficulties for channels like mine when you're only recommended Fox News, MSNBC, CNN. The only way around this is either to have a massive marketing budget I don't have, and they do, or to ask you to share the video. So it really, really does help. It's more powerful than their algorithm. More importantly, though, look, if you're a Democrat, if you're on the left, or you know someone who is, they need to see this. They need to understand what's coming. Because if the Democrats don't get their act together, which they haven't been for years, well, then they're not going to win for a long time. So as much as they may not want to hear this, it might be important if they think they're going to win. But of course, I doubt they'd want to watch. Share anyway, right? If you just want to watch, then please subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and let's read the news. GOP poised to retake Katie Hill's California seat as Trump-backed candidate wins big in Wisconsin. Fox News reports candidates backed by Donald Trump were outperforming expectations in two closely watched congressional special elections on Tuesday night as former Navy combat pilot Mike Garcia inched closer to retaking Democrat Katie Hill's California seat, and Republican Tom Tiffany easily prevailed in Wisconsin. Garcia grabbed a substantial early lead Tuesday in the fight for the open U.S. House seat north of Los Angeles in the swing 25th district giving California Republicans a chance to claim a Democratic-held congressional seat in the state for the first time since 1998. That's amazing. With 76% of precincts reporting and approximately 143,000 ballots counted, Garcia was leading Christy Smith 55.9% to 44.1%. But California routinely counts large numbers of voters after Election Day. An unknown number of ballots remain uncounted, and Los Angeles County, where most of them are located, was not expected to update its tally again till Friday. There's also mail-in voting, so consider they're not out of the woods yet. Right now, it's a substantial early lead. Garcia, I believe, is not declaring victory. Mail-in ballots are still favoring Republicans, but this is an LA county. This district did swing for Hillary Clinton in 2016. We will see. But right now, everyone's basically saying they've well overperformed, and he is projected to win. We'll see how things play out coming later in the week. Virtually all voters were expected to mail in ballots because of the virus outbreak, though a sprinkling of polling places were available for those who wanted to vote in person. Mail-in ballots can arrive as late as Friday and still be counted, provided they were postmarked by Election Day. Trump lost the district by 6 points in 2016. He went out of his way to promote Garcia in recent weeks as strong on guns and immigration, and some Democrats had hoped he would be a liability in the race. For former President Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and other high-profile Democrats all lined up behind Smith. The seat became vacant last year due to the resignation of Hill and the ethics violations. Remember, get out the vote for Mike Garcia. Trump tweeted Tuesday, a really big deal for our country. In fact, Donald Trump had even argued that it was rigged because they were opening polling places in the LA area. But it stands to reason Mike Garcia is on track to win. There's a big concern among Republicans, however, that mail-in ballots will open the door for some shady dealings. I don't know what to say to that. You got to prove it. If you claim someone's swinging it, finding ballots, yeah, there's weird things. I don't like the idea of them changing the rules. We'll see how things play out come Friday. They say Smith and Garcia topped a crowded field of candidates in the state's March 3rd primary and advanced to separate elections. One on Tuesday to fill the remainder of Hill's 2-year term and a second in November for the full 2-year term starting 2021. For the GOP, Smith's statement that more votes need to be counted conjured up memories of the 2018 election when Republicans saw their early leads in California races shrink to nothing after Election Day. As more and more ballots trickled in, some Republicans cried foul and blamed the state's practice of legalized ballot harvesting, which permits political operatives to pick up voters' ballots en masse and drop them off at polling stations. We will see. You see, one of the things that happened in 2018 was that early on, it looked like Republicans were actually doing well. Democrats were doing well, too. But as the votes trickled in, Democrats started winning to the shock of many Republicans. Now, take a look at this story here. Take a look at this data here from the New York Times. I want to show you what's going on in these polling places, the most up-to-date data. And I want to explain to you why this is predicting a blue wave, essentially countering the narrative put forth by many Democrats, resistance types, and leftists. California's special election result 25th congressional district currently has a 12-point advantage for Mike Garcia. When we look at the current mail-in ballots, we have 34% returned, according to Political Data Inc. Most importantly, Republicans have a major advantage. We can see that of the ballots mailed out, 46% of Republicans have returned theirs, giving them a 10,000 count lead. Above the Democrats, only 32% have returned their ballots. Independents are harder to track because we don't necessarily know who they're voting for, but they're leaning towards Trump nationwide and in many different jurisdictions. So, we'll see how this plays out. There are more Democrats than Republicans. We're also seeing the youth vote. So far, only 19% have returned their ballots. This is still good news for Republicans. Even if the mail-in ballots come in Friday, it's currently tracking towards favoring the Republicans. So we will see how this plays out. It's hard to know exactly. Over in Wisconsin, we can see that Tom Tiffany has just slightly under around 14-point lead, which is still really good. Now, apparently Donald Trump won this district by 20 points, and that's being pointed to by Democrats as evidence that Trump isn't doing as well. As far as I can tell, it doesn't really matter. Democrats are not being competitive. That was the big argument that was put forward. Two important bits of data is the historical Cook PVI. California's 25th congressional district is considered even, meaning it's a toss-up. It's a swing district. Wisconsin is Republican +8. We can see down here. To win by 14 points is still ridiculously good for Republicans. Take a look at this story. I highlighted this story a couple times in the past few days. 2 special elections on Tuesday could hint at another blue wave in 2020. This is the narrative that the Democrats were going for, or that 538 was putting out. And it was the strangest thing to me. But you know what? We'll run with it. Because the inverse would be true, right? The argument from 538's Jeffrey Skelly is that, here's what he basically says. If Democrats are also competitive in the quickly reddening rural Wisconsin, it could signal another blue wave in the fall. Here's everything you need to know about the 2 races. Okay. Here's what they say. The main event is in California's 25th congressional district, a bellwether seat in North Los Angeles suburbs, where both parties see a chance to add to their ranks in the House. So if they were arguing the Democrats doing well in these districts signaled a blue wave, is it fair to then say there will not be a blue wave? The inverse would be true. Not completely. I don't think it's a 1-for-1 thing. You can't really say it. We don't know. I think the speculation was terrible, mind you. A very, very big mistake on the part of 538. When we look at Gallup's data, the favorability of Congress, Republicans have flipped. It's flipped. Republicans are now above Democrats. That says something. But more importantly, what says something is the secret Trump voters. Interestingly, the Trump voters aren't playing a role here right now, for the most part. The New York Times said that in 2018, one of the big factors in the victory of the Democrats in these moderate districts was that Trump supporters didn't come out. That way, these Democrats were able to flip the district. I'll tell you what, man, the anecdotal evidence I've seen suggests people are fed up with the Democrats. It's been lie after lie. They've been wrong about so much. They were wrong about Russia. They were wrong about Ukraine. Impeachment failed. They were wrong about Jussie Smollett, and they were wrong about the Covington kids. The media has just been wrong every step of the way. I can only imagine at a certain point, people are tired of losing. The economy was doing great under Donald Trump for the first few years. Then we saw the pandemic hit, and nobody blames Trump for that. The polls show it. People do not blame Trump for the economic hurt. In fact, this is more evidence to suggest people may actually flock to Donald Trump. He proved he could make the economy work. The economy got hit by the virus. Who's going to fix it? Joe Biden? Sorry, I don't think so. So 538 had a ridiculous assessment. For some reason, even though polling data suggested Democrats would fail, they argued there could be a blue wave. I get it, man. We could all be wrong. You know, it'll be funny if come November, I was wrong and we look back at this. I'll accept that, right? But I predicted a red wave, or I should say I suggested. But there's another funny story from 530 that I want to show you. If Trump is down in the polls, why do so many Americans think he'll win? They give a very ridiculous response, in my opinion. But let's move from Congress to Trump, because listen, the big factor in whether or not Republicans will retake the House is if Trump supporters come out in droves. And it stands to reason they will. I mean, people love voting for the guy. Look at the record-breaking GOP primary. They're going to come out and they're going to vote for the guy. And they're going to give a big boost to all these Republicans. But here's what they ask. They say Biden has a decent lead in the number of swing states. His polls are doing really, really well. What's up with voters giving Trump such a high odds of beating Biden? 55% said they think Trump will win in November, according to an average of recent polls. That's been relatively consistent over time, too. Do you think that will change, though, if Biden remains in the lead? Perry Bacon Jr., a senior writer, says Trump's standing might be stronger in perception than in reality for many voters for 2 reasons. First, the polls had Clinton as the likely winner in 2016, and Trump won. So, of course, some people are wary of the polls again. Second, I think the possibility that Trump might take extra legal, unethical, or norm-violating steps, like trying to have the Ukrainian government investigate the son of one of his rivals, to win the election makes people a little less confident that the election will take place in a traditional way. Basically, if some people already think Trump will cheat to win, they will likely not find the polls much comfort. Yes, that's the argument. Trump will cheat. Sorry, you lost in 2016. Get over it. Donald Trump wasn't trying to cheat because he wanted to dig into or because he was concerned about what was going on with Burisma and the Ukraine stuff. That's ridiculous, man. They want to change the rules. They want to complain. It's time you get with it and realize you are wrong all the time. This is what's crazy to me. Adam Schiff has been lying nonstop for years about Russiagate. Why would anyone in their right mind believe them at this point? That's what's shocking to me about the consistent claims of a coming blue wave. Now, this is where it gets really fascinating. Does Trump have a secret stash of voters? Sounds like the answer is yes. We've known about Trump stealth voters for some time. People who are scared to admit they will vote for Donald Trump for media reasons. Now, I do find one thing quite hilarious. All the Trump supporters who think I'm one of these people when I'm certainly not. I will tell you straight up when I've made a definitive decision on who I will vote for. A lot of people are saying Tim's clearly in the bag for Trump. No. Simply because I do not like Democrats doesn't mean I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. I will say, however, the case has been made by me and others that the economy needs saving. And who has proven themselves? Donald Trump. It's a very good reason. But I also don't think I'm at a position where I'm going to be waving a flag and cheering and saying, like, I know for sure what I'm going to be doing come November. Though I've said over and over again, it's becoming easier and easier to consider Trump for re-election, and that the Democrats have made it. Well, the Democrats are the ones who did it. Joe Biden is not viable. And I'll show you why. But check out this data. The Washington Post writes, President Trump currently trails his presumptive Democratic opponent, former Vice President Joe Biden, in nearly every national public opinion poll. But a closer look at the data reveals he may have a secret stash of voters that makes the race closer than it currently appears. The stash might come from a curious polling anomaly. Every poll in the Real Clear Politics average that asks both a job approval and a Trump versus Biden ballot question finds that more people approve of Trump's job performance than say they will vote for him. The gap between job approval and vote share ranges between 2 points in Monmouth and CNN polls and 7 points in the Fox News and CNBC polls. But every poll has a similar finding. This gap did not exist in President Barack Obama's 2012 re-election campaign. Polls from April 2012 had no consistent pattern. Four polls found Obama's share of the vote in trial heats against Republican nominee Mitt Romney was higher than his job approval rating, while 3 showed the opposite. All of the differences were no more than 3 points, which means the differences were within the poll's margin of error. The result was that Obama's average share of the vote largely tracked his job approval rating. It's simple. Who are these people who claim Trump is doing a good job that also claim they won't be voting for him? These must be Donald Trump's stealth voters, because think about the questions. Some Trump supporters claim that they purposefully say Joe Biden to lull the Democrats into a false sense of security. Now, that's fun, but I don't know how serious that would be. That would be a massive amount of people doing that and laughing about it. The reality is, I believe people are scared to say they will vote for Trump. They're worried about the media attacking them, of being accused of all these nasty things, of admitting that they don't care about Donald Trump's attitude, that he might be a nasty person, he might be mean. But as Donald Trump said, he may be nasty, but he's working for you. People realize this. I remember I was in an airport a few months ago and a guy told me, he said, hey, man, I wouldn't invite the guy to my house for dinner, but the money's good. How many people want to admit that they agree Trump's got a bad attitude, he's a bad character, he's a nasty guy, but they love the money, they love the economy, so they're going to vote for him anyway? Few people, I suppose. But when it comes down to it, what really matters? The economy. And Donald Trump's approval rating on economics and the economy is very, very high, even in the pandemic when the economy is taking a big hit. Says to me, Trump's stealth voters, they're going to get him this victory. Now, it's not just Donald Trump's stealth voters. It's also the fact that Joe Biden there's no enthusiasm for this man. So even if Donald Trump is doing worse off than he was in 2016, presumably, there's no reason to believe it. We have every reason to believe he's doing better. But let's say that Donald Trump, for some reason, is doing worse. People don't like the guy. No one's going to come out for Joe Biden because the dude's clearly lost it. The New York Times asks something similar. Biden has an edge on Trump, so why are Democrats worried? Well, the Washington Post lays it out for us. They say it's Trump's stealth voters. But this article brings up something very interesting. Joe Biden is a complete mess. Take a look at this snippet from the story. What was hailed as the first all-digital rally last Thursday evening more closely resembled late-night local access television. Midway through, the feed went black for almost 7 minutes. The audio was garbled. A dramatic walk-up entrance showing Mr. Biden removing his aviator sunglasses was mangled. Did they introduce me? He asked. Am I on? Oh, man. The Biden campaign has been a complete and total disaster. And you know why? Democrats still haven't figured out what went wrong in 2016. There's a story from Jonah Goldberg for Newsday. He basically says, I have a theory. Or rather, I'm persuaded by a theory I picked up on from Denver University professor of political science, Seth Maskett, author of the forthcoming book, Learning from Loss. The Democrats, 2016 to 2020. The Democrats can't figure out what to do next because they still haven't figured out what really went wrong the last time. Every 4 years, one of the parties loses the presidential race. As the party poobahs and political pundits play the blame game, a rough consensus quickly emerges about why the party nominee lost. Sometimes the most self-serving explanation wins out. It was all the candidate's fault. The election was winnable and our ideas are great, but our nominee just couldn't make the sale. But sometimes the post-mortem is coldly empirical and data-driven. We failed to connect with suburban voters. We didn't turn out our base in Michigan or Ohio. We never came up with a good response to those attacks. And sometimes consensus emerges that the party itself is ideologically out of touch with the majority of the electorate. Bill Clinton beat the incumbent President H.W. Bush in '92 for a number of reasons. But one of the main ones was that the party recognized that its previous two nominees, Walter Mondale and Michael Dukakis, seemed too beholden to special interests and too committed to liberal orthodoxy. Clinton ran as a different kind of Democrat who went out of his way to shoot some liberal sacred cows. 24 years later, his wife was the nominee. Hillary Clinton lost the election, but not the popular vote. Were it not for some 78,000 votes in 5 counties, 4 in Florida and 1 in Michigan, Clinton would have won the Electoral College tally as well. Such a close election made it harder to understand what went wrong. In statistical terms, this is white noise well within the margin of error. You can blame the Russians for Trump's victory, or you can blame the weather, or you can blame Clinton for snubbing the state of Wisconsin. In other words, you can pick whichever theory supports your idea of what the party should do next. Clinton did not take her defeat well and spent much of 2017 offering self-serving theories about who or what was to blame, from sexist men, self-hating women, voter suppression, fake news, and of course the Russians. This made a sober accounting of the Democrats' loss even harder. And then there's the Bernie factor. Sanders lost the primary in 2016, but it's like he never got the memo. He and his supporters took their surprisingly strong showing to claim a mandate for changes to the party, particularly in Iowa, which is one reason for the disaster there. There's also the fact that Trump won despite most polls predicting a Clinton victory. This shock, Maskett writes, undermined many activists' long-standing beliefs about just what sorts of candidates are electable. Add in the fact the last winning Democratic presidential candidate, Obama, was won not by running to the center the way Bill Clinton did, but by turbocharging the turnaround of the Democratic base. And you can see why many Democrats think that's a winning strategy this time around. That's certainly Sanders' bet, indeed. For most of last year, nearly all Democratic candidates were fighting in Sanders' lane and working under the same theory. So you get the point. I'm not gonna prattle on too much. The point is very simple. Simple. The Democrats don't know why they lost, so they can't adequately adapt to win. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is proving his platform works. He was doing right by the economy. Even if you want to argue about the coronavirus pandemic response, Trump was still earlier compared to Democrats. Add in the Joe Biden factor, and the Democrats have put forth a nominee that makes no sense, that can barely speak. And I got to say, it's shocking to me they would choose this guy. Add all of these things together, and you get one other big factor that just topples everything over and creates this red wave, in my opinion. The media attack factor. I'll tell you what I feel. I know many of you feel the same. I've never been a big fan of Donald Trump. I think he's funny. That's fine. But he wasn't my choice. But I am so sick and tired of the orange man bad narrative, the constant lies, everything he does is wrong, nothing makes sense, that I am just fed up. And I tell you what, I can totally empathize with those people who want to just stick it to the media and the Democratic establishment by just pulling that lever, yelling Trump as a big F you to that machine. I am sick and tired of every story lying. And it's so obvious. There are rational, middle-of-the-road people who just can't take it anymore. You think I want these people to win now? You would be sadly mistaken. Nah. It doesn't necessarily mean I want Trump to win. And I'm not such an overly emotional person that I'm going to be angry enough to just give Trump my vote simply because I don't like the media lying. But I'll tell you what, I can certainly understand why it would feel so good to see Donald Trump win again in the face of every lie for the past 4 years. Nonstop. Since 2015, nearly 5 years of lying and screeching and screaming and the annoying, incessant. I tell you what, man, at a certain point, you just want to spite these awful people. And I think people are going to come out. You add all of these factors together, but that one, to me, that's the emotional reaction from people saying, I just can't take it anymore. Some have argued that would be enough to convince people to vote Democrat so that the incessant Trump screeching stops. I don't think so. I think Americans are stubborn. I think if you screech in their face like a whiny baby with having a temper tantrum, eventually they put you in timeout. Now, there are some people that when the child cries for an hour, they say, fine, please, I'll give you anything you want, just stop crying. That doesn't sound like Americans. Americans are the people who are going to be like, if you keep crying, I'm going to put you in your room and you're going to be grounded. And they cry more and they say, okay, you get what you deserve. I think that's what we can expect. These two districts, not set in stone yet. We may see some changes. Wisconsin 7th seem to be set in stone, but California could change the mail-in ballot. For the time being, this flies in the face of the projections by 538. And dare I say, I think the red wave is coming. I could be wrong. Hubris will be your downfall. If Republicans think this is enough for them to sit, to rest and think they got it in the bag, that's when they'll lose. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. at youtube.com/TimCastNews, and I will see you all then.